Here is everything you're going to need to make your own crocheted strawberry plant holder. We're going to be using our strawberry colored yarn. This is all that I have left. I have used every pink and every red that I have on my yarn wall. So I'm using this color. I believe it's called Cherry Blossom. I love this yarn. It's a little bit fleshy looking, so it's not ideal, but that's all that I have left. Some yellow. This is also I love this yarn. An H 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. This one is Clover & More brand, 10 out of 10 recommend. A pair of scissors, a tapestry needle. You may need a stitch marker. You will also need some polyfill to stuff your strawberry with, and you might need something along the lines of a piece of pool noodle to help you shape your strawberry. This part is optional. It helps me. It might help you as well. Another optional product is puff paint. If you want to, you can make your strawberry seeds with puff paint instead of yarn if you want it to be a little bit faster. I will link to all of these things down below. Let's go ahead and get started. We will be starting with our strawberry colored yarn. First, we are going to make a slip knot. Okay, and now we are going to chain 30. 28, 29, 30. Okay. Now we have our chain. We are going to create a loop with our starting chain, making sure it doesn't get twisted. So just kind of run your fingers. Bring this end to the end that you're working on, and that is where we're going to join our yarn. I like to go into the back bump right here. It's a little bit wonky for the first one. These are the back bumps. That's where we'll be putting our hook for the next row. We'll go ahead and join right here. And chain 1. Now we're going to single crochet 30 going into the back bumps. So we're going to start in the chain where we just joined and place our first single crochet there. That's 1. Then the next back bump is this guy right here. The back bumps are these little horizontal bars that connect the V's together. Like that. And we're going to do that all the way around for a total of 30 stitches. You may have noticed that I yarn under instead of the traditional yarn over. That is just how I taught myself how to crochet. It makes my single crochet stitches a little bit twisted. It will not affect the finished outcome of this piece. It will still work because after we add the polyfill and our pots and stuff, there's a lot of wiggle room for size differences. So you can yarn over or under, whichever one tickles your fancy. I'm much faster if I yarn under. So that's how I do it. We'll come back in just a second after I complete my 30 single crochets. Now we are going to join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For this pattern, we will be joining and chaining after each row. That will keep our single crochet stitches nice and straight up and down. If we went in the round, they would be a little bit angled because of the spiral motion, and then that can affect when you are lining up your seeds. The only thing is the seam can get really funky when you work with single crochets like this, so we will be alternating where we put our first stitch. If you want to work in the round, you can. It will look nice and clean with the seams, but it might throw off how you do your seeds, so just keep that in mind. For row 2, we are just going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way around. So starting in the stitch where we just joined, that's where we're going to put our first single crochet. That's 1. We're going to just single crochet 1 time all the way around for a total of, again, 30 stitches in the row. Okay, I have 2 stitches left, and that is 30. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For rows 3 through 10, we will be doing some increasing. The main point of the increasing rows is to make sure your increases do not line up on top of one another. That can make your finished work kind of pucker. So if it seems like the numbers I'm giving you are really random, it's so they're evenly spaced out. If you would rather just put your increases wherever you want and not follow along with the exact stitch count that I'll be sharing with you, that's totally fine. Just try not to line them up on top of one another. So for row 3, we're going to start start with 5 single crochets, putting our first one in that stitch where we just joined. I'm going to tell you when we're going to alternate. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to increase in the next stitch, and a single crochet increase is just 2 single crochet stitches in the exact same space. That's your single crochet increase. Then we are going to single crochet 13, 11, 12, 13, and then we're going to place an increase in the next stitch. So 2 stitches together. Perfect. And then we're going to single crochet 10 more, giving us a total of 32 stitches in the row. 9 and 10. Perfect. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. So now you can see that my seam is going this way pretty drastically. So now we're going to start alternating where we put our first stitch to try to just kind of make it want to go back in the other way. It's still going to be a little bit clumpy. This is just the best option, and it can go towards the back of your shelf or whatever, so nobody can see around the whole thing anyway. So for row 4, we're going to do 11 stitches and then an increase, and then 16 stitches and then an increase, and then 3 stitches. And we're going from 32 to 34, so it's just 2 increases. But we're going to put our first stitch, instead of going in the spot where we just joined, we're going to jump over here, and this is where we're going to put our first stitch, and that means our last stitch is going to be squeezed in right here. We're just going to kind of shove it in there, but I'll show you. Start with 11 single crochets, being sure to go into this stitch over here and not where we just joined. 10, 11. Now we're going to increase in the next stitch. Then we're going to single crochet 16, 15, 16. Then we're going to increase. Then we have 3 stitches left. 1, 2, and then our third one is going to be shoved in this area right here. Kind of make your own little spot for it. Okay, and then join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. Now for row 5, we're going to single crochet 2 times and then an increase 15 times and then an increase 15 times again. So we're going to end with 36 stitches in row 5. So we're going to start in the spot where we just joined and place 2 single crochets and then an increase in the next stitch. Then we're going to single crochet 15 and 15. Now we're going to increase in the next stitch. Then we're going to single crochet 15 again to finish out the row. 14, 15. Perfect. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 6, we are going to single crochet 9, increase, 16, increase, and then 9 again. So starting in the spot where we just joined, 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, then we're going to increase. Now single crochet 16 and 16. Now we put an increase. Then we're going to end with 9 more stitches, giving us a total of 38 stitches in the row. 7, 8, 9. Perfect. Joining to the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 7, we're going to change where we put our first stitch. We're going to skip the one that we just joined and come all the way over here for 17 single crochets. Then we're going to increase, then 13, then increase, then 6. So that's 2. 15, 16, 17. Now we're going to increase, single crochet 13 stitches, and then increase, and we're going to end with single crocheting 6, with the 6th one going shoved in that starting chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 squares in there. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 8, it's going to go 6, increase, 7, increase, 10, increase, 13, increase. So we've got 4 increases, giving us a total of 44 stitches. So we're going to start with 6, starting in the spot where we just joined. Five, 6. Now we're going to increase. Then we're going to single crochet 7. Then we're going to increase, single crochet 10, then we're going to increase, single crochet 13, and we're going to end this last stitch here with an increase. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 9, we're going to do 4 more increases going from 44 to 48 stitches. It's going to go 1, increase, 10, increase, 10, increase, 10, increase, 9. So starting with 1 and putting it right where we first joined our hook, joined our last row. That's 1. And now we're going to increase. And then 10, increase, 10, increase, 10, increase, 9. 9 and 10, increase, 10 stitches. 10 and increase, then 10 again. Then increase. Now we should have 9 stitches left. 7, 8, and 9. Perfect. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 10, we're going to alternate where we put our first stitch, and the stitch pattern is going to go 4, increase, 14, increase, 12, increase, 9, increase, 5. And we're going from 48 to 52 stitches. So starting here in the stitch next to the one where we just joined, so not where we just joined, but the next one over, for 4 stitches, 3 and 4. Now we're going to increase in the next stitch, single crochet 14, and 14, increase in the next stitch, single crochet 12, increase in the next stitch, single crochet 9, increase in the next stitch, and then we should end with 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one is going to go shoved right in there. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. So we just finished row 10 and we now have 52 stitches. For rows 11, 12, and 13, we're just going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way around for a total of 52 stitches. 11 and 12, we're going to go into the stitch we just joined. But then for row 13, we're going to skip over here. So I'm going to do rows 11, 12, and 13 off camera, and then I will come back and we will get started on row 14, which is where we're going to start doing our decreases. Okay, I just finished row 13, which was one of the alternating rows, so my last stitch went really close to where I joined. Now for row 14, we're going to start our decreases. So we're going to do 6 regular single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to decrease over the next 2 stitches by doing the magic decrease or the invisible decrease. If you look at the next 2 stitches, these V stitches, normally we would put our hook under both. We're going to go in the front loop only, the loop closest to your person, and then we're going to whip our hook around and pick up the front loop of the next stitch, and that's where we're going to place our decrease. So those 2 stitches have now become 1 stitch. Then we're going to single crochet 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then another decrease. Again, 6 single crochets. 5, 6, and then decrease. And then we're going to single crochet 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a decrease. This row is going to have 6 total decreases. So we're going from 52 stitches down to 46 stitches. Again, for 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a decrease. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a decrease. And yes, we have 4 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that gives us a total of 46 stitches. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 15, we're going to have 6 more decreases. In between all of them is going to go 2, and then we're going to have 5 sets of 5. So 2, then a decrease, 5 and a decrease, that's 1, 5 and a decrease, that's 2, 5 and a decrease, that's 3, till we get to 5, and then 7 stitches left for a total of 40. I know it sounds crazy. We're going to do it here together. So we're going to start with our 2 single crochets, starting where we joined, and then we're going to decrease. And then we have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a decrease. That's 1. We're going to do that 4 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a decrease. 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 Then we should have 7 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Excellent. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. Okay, for row 16, we're just going to have 2 decreases. It's going to go 8, decrease, 25, decrease, 3. And we are going to start, this is going to be one of the weird ones where we change where we start. So we're not starting right here. We're going to start over here at this one for our first single crochet 1. And we're going to single crochet to 8. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to decrease. And then we're going to single crochet 25. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch me count to 25. 23, 24, 25. Now we decrease. And then we end with 3 stitches. 1, 2, and then our third one is going to be squished in here. 3. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. Excellent. You can see our seam isn't, I mean, it's not great, obviously, but it's also not going bloop. If we just let it go this way, eventually it would wrap around to the front of our work and it would be super obvious. So this at least keeps it near the back. For rows 17 and 18, we're just going to single crochet one time in each stitch all the way around, starting in the spot you just joined. So we'll do our funky little thing for row 19. So I'm going to do 17 and 18, and then I will be right back. Just 38 stitches total. Okay, I just finished rows 17 and 18. The rest of the rows we're just going to be increasing by 1. Well, for a little bit, then near the end we're going to increase by 2. But for a while it's just going to be 1 decrease. So for row 19, I'm going to single crochet 27, starting in the stitch further from where I just joined. That's 1. We're going to go for 27. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and then we're going to decrease. Then we're going to single crochet 9. 7, 8, and the last one is going to go shoved in here. For 9, join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 20, we're just going to single crochet 37. So starting where we just joined, 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, again for a total of 37 stitches in the row. And then for row 21, we're going to do 4 single crochet stitches, a decrease, and then 31 single crochet stitches, giving us a total of 36 stitches in the row. Okay, join into the top of our first single crochet. Now we're going to single crochet 4, starting where we just joined. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to decrease, and then single crochet 31, bringing us to 36 stitches. 30 and 31, join into the top of our first stitch. For row 22, we're just going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way around for a total of 36, but this is going to be one of our funky rows where we put our first stitch in the next stitch after the join, and then our last stitch will be shoved up next to the join on the right hand side. Okay, and then our last stitch going to go right in there. Join into the top of our first single crochet, chain 1. Row 23 is an easy one. It's 17, decrease, and then 17. Starting where we just joined, 17 stitches, 17, and then we're going to decrease, and then 17 stitches again. That's going to give us a total of 35 stitches in the row. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 24, we're just going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way around, again for a total of 35 stitches. I just put my first stitch right in the same spot where I joined, and the next row is when we will do our alternate starting. Okay. Join into the top of our first stitch. For row 25, we're going to do 10, decrease, then 23, starting over here, away from our join. Go for 10 stitches. Now we're going to decrease over the next 2 stitches, and then single crochet 23, giving us a total of 34 stitches in the row. And then our last stitch is going to go right there in that little spot that we squeeze it in. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 26, we're just going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way around for a total of 34 stitches, starting where we just joined. 31, 32, 33, and 34. Join into the top of our first stitch, chain 1. Now for row 27, we're going to do 25, decrease, and then 6, giving us a total of 33 stitches in the row. So starting where we just joined, 25, 25, then we're going to decrease over the next 2 stitches, and then single crochet 6, giving us a total of 33 stitches. Join into the top of our first stitch and chain 1. For row 28, we're going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way around for a total of 33 stitches, and we are going to make this one of our weird alternate starting point rows. 1, 2, 3, all the way around for 33 stitches. I will say this color is a little unfortunate for a strawberry plant holder, but it is probably perfect for a Gracie doll if you needed a new skin tone to add to your Gracie doll color chart. I think this one would work perfectly. The Gracie doll is another free crochet pattern on my blog and here on my YouTube channel as well. Okay, 2 more stitches, the last one going here in this little weird spot. We only have 4 rows left, friends. We are making great time. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 29, we're going to single crochet 2 and then decrease and then single crochet 29. So 2 and then decrease, then single crochet 29, giving us a total of 32 stitches in the row. Okay, join into the top of our first single crochet. For row 30, we're going to start where we just joined to place our first single crochet and then single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way around, giving us a total of 32 stitches in the row. 31 and 32. Join into the top of our first single crochet and chain 1. For row 31, this is going to be our last row that we do the funky little alternate start here. So our first stitch is going to go over here away from our starting chain. We're going to single crochet 16, so that was 1, 3, 4, all the way to 16, 15, 16. Then we're going to decrease. I apologize for the change of scenery and all of that. I found an error in my video after it was already ready to be published on YouTube, so we are back again, and then we're going to finish like normal. But I just finished my 16 single crochets, and then I did my decrease. Now we're going to single crochet 13. Technically, it should be 14 stitches, but instead of squishing our last stitch up next to our starting chain, we're just going to stop at 13. And that's going to count as our second decrease, so we will have a total of 30 stitches for this row. So 12 and 13. So the 14th stitch would go here, squished in, but we're not going to do that. We're going to stop at 13, join into the top of our first single crochet, and chain 1. Back to the original video. Now for the last row, row 32, we're just going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way around for a total of 30 stitches. After we finish this row, we're going to grab our yellow to make our strawberry seeds. If you would rather use puff paint, you can skip the next bits or fast forward it, or just check the chapters down below and jump straight to stuffing your strawberry. I will be grabbing my yellow yarn and my tapestry needle and then meeting you right back here. Join into the top of our first single crochet. Do not cut your yarn. We're not finished using it. You can go ahead and chain. You can place a stitch marker here if you would like to help prevent your work from unraveling. If you put it right here, it won't be able to pull it through, so that can be really helpful. Let's take a look at our weird Caucasian flesh colored strawberry. Here's what we've got. Looks really neat. This is not ideal. I wish there was another way around it. If we joined our yarn and then turned our work after each row, it would probably be straighter. That would probably look fine for this type of crochet piece. So if you end up doing that and you share a picture, let me know. I'd love to see it. This works for me. I'm going to grab my yellow yarn and pull off a little bit more than what you think you're gonna need, because it's not fun to have to rejoin giving yourself another tail. Okay, this one's probably like 5 feet long if I had to guess, which is probably too much. And I'm just going to use a tapestry needle. I like the ones with the pointy tips instead of the dull tips. I'm just going to pull it through pretty far so it's not too long to work with here. We want our seeds to only be on the front side of our strawberry. We don't need them on the inside. This is the inside bit. This is the outside bit. Usually I start where I think the middle would be and then work my way down. And now I'm thinking about it, it'd probably be smarter to work at the bottom and then work your way up, because I really like having 4 rows of seeds. And there's some wiggle room up here. There's no wiggle room down here. So I think for the first time, hopefully it turns out good on camera, we're gonna start from the bottom, which is gonna be down here. I also like to start next to my wonky seam, because if they don't line up perfectly here, we got some wiggle room, because this is the back anyway. Looking at one of the 15 strawberries that I've made at this point, it looks like I've got 8 seeds in each row. So spatially, if you want to keep that in your mind, we've got about 8 seeds going. I usually just wing it. That's how I live my life. So I'm going to insert my arm into the side with the working yarn still attached. This is the same color as my body. Okay. And this guy needs to just kind of stay out of my way. And I'm going to insert my hook where I want the top of my seed. So usually we got about 3 rows for seed height. So I'm going to go right here. You can see that. And pull my yarn all the way through. Now I'm going to grab the tail. You can see the tail just kind of hanging out in there. I like to pull it up out of the work. So stick my little hook in there and grab my little tail and pull it up, so I'm less likely to pull it all the way through. I'm just gonna re-secure it like this, even, because I have pulled it all the way through before and then I have to restart and I get really frustrated. So I just kind of tacked it there, so hopefully I don't pull it all the way through on accident. Now that's the top of my seed. So if you're looking at it, it's the top of my seed here. So now we need to find the bottom of our seed. We're gonna go right here. So the last 3 rows are gonna be the height of this row of seeds. And then pull it through, trying not to let it get all tangled up. That's the pro of having shorter yarn, is you're less likely to get it all tangled up. So whichever one frustrates you the most, find the best length of yarn for that situation. Don't pull it too tight, because then it will get clinchy. And then I'm just gonna come over a few stitches. Like I said, I just wing it. If you wanted to measure yours, you absolutely could, but I'm just gonna use these last 3 rows as my guide and then come over a few stitches. You could even count how many stitches that you went over and try to make sure it's the same number in between each seed if you want to. I'm just gonna be a crazy person and wing it. I'm hoping you can see that pretty good. I actually find this part fairly therapeutic. If you turn on a show or a podcast or your Bible app, something like that, and just sit through and embroider your little strawberry seeds, it can be relaxing. I've never started from the bottom though. I'm a little nervous about that, but it should work just the same. And then once we finish this row, I do like having 4+ rows of seeds. I made one that just had 3 rows and it does not look good. Here was one of my earlier prototypes. I don't like it as much. I think it looks much cuter with 4 rows of seeds, or even 5 if you wanted to. The more the merrier. I made, I think, 12, maybe 13. It's a lot. That's the way I design. I have to make a million of them before I get it right. And I usually share that fun experience over on Instagram. So if you want to follow me at A Crafty Concept, you get a little behind the scenes peek at my chaotic designing method. Once we get all the way around, I'll show you how I'm going to jump up to the next row. And then I'll do the rest of this off camera. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I think these are very cute with fake plants or real plants if you don't kill them like I do. Or even crocheted plants, I think could be really cute. Plenty of plant options here. This is going to be my last seed for this row, and I'm keeping everything nice and taut on the inside. Taut enough. You don't want it tight, and you don't want it loosey-goosey, which loosey-goosey is better than tight, honestly, if you had to choose. Okay. My last seed For the next row, they're going to be in the windows. Is a cheerleading term. I'm sure other sports used it as well. You're going to split each one of these seeds with the next seed. So they're alternating where they're going to go, like windows. I don't know. My first row of seeds took up rows 1, 2, and 3. My next row of seeds are going to be 4, 5, and 6. So this next row right above 3, row 4, is going to be where I pop up my needle from the inside here to put the bottom of my second row of seeds. So I'm not skipping any rows in between the seeds. We're just going directly in the next row, but we're putting them in the spaces between the previous seeds. 1, 2, 3, gonna go here-ish. Doesn't have to be perfect, unless that's your jam. Okay, and then I'm gonna just repeat that all the way around, putting seeds in the windows, and then making my next row still 3 for the width, and then 1 row up. I hope that makes sense for you guys. But I'm gonna do my 4 rows of seeds, and then I will come back and we will stuff our strawberries and then seam up the bottom and shape it and all that good stuff. So I will be right back. Okay, I just finished my 4 rows of strawberry seeds. Now I'm going to tie off. So let's just flip it inside out so we can see a little bit of what's going on. Cut my tail so it's not so long. It's easier to manage. And I'm just gonna kind of make a little knot here, being careful not to go all the way through to the front of the strawberry, just staying with stitches on this side. A little knot, and then do it again. Go under a few stitches, making sure to not go through to the front, and cut our yarn, and then do the same thing to our first tail. Now we need to grab our polyfill. So let's push this back out, right side out, and grab this piece, this half of it, and pull it into the inside like this. So just kind of grab it and pull it all the way through, and then we can shape it in a second. We want the ends to match up. Perfect. Now leave that in there. That's still our working yarn. And let's grab some polyfill. In my experience, stuffing this bad boy is the trickiest part, because you really just want it stuffed around this area the most, and then very little, if any, around this area. So we just kind of tuck it down in there as evenly as we can. This stuffing is from the inside of a Squishmallow, and it is glorious. Just kind of fluff it up a little bit so it's not in big chunks. Squeeze in the inside bit, and then stuff around it like this. It is a little tedious. You just got to do a little at a time, moving your hands as you go, trying to shape it, making sure there's not any clumps or any like dead spots with no stuffing. It's a little tricky, but the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Okay, and after you get some, I go like this, and I can tell right here there's no stuffing. Like if there's stuffing there, there's no stuffing here. So I'll go in there with some stuffing. Just kind of, it needs to be pretty forcefully pushed in the very edgy bits. At first it's going to kind of look like we've got a donut down in there, but then we can gently smudge it down so it's more of a cone shape. Okay, there's a dead spot. Also, you want to make sure everything's pretty evenly stuffed all the way around. Not any fat spots, not any skinny spots. Keep feeling around and moving stuff around, and then adding when necessary. Try to keep checking back and making sure when these are lined up, this is what you want it to be, because it can move around on you. And then we're going to go like this. Just kind of whatever technique you need to do to make your stuffing uniform and shapely. Okay, once you get it where you kind of like it, you can start to taper the stuffing down with your fingers very gently. There's a little bit of a dead spot. Okay, very shapely. It is kind of looking like I could have done another row of seeds right here. I wasn't sure until I got it stuffed. I could go back in with my needle after I finished assembling the whole thing and add another row. If it was a red strawberry, I would do it, but I don't know what I'm going to do with this fleshy colored strawberry. Now we are going to close up the bottom. Grabbing your H hook again. I know this is unfortunate. I'm going to show you what we're going to do. First, we're going to pull out that chain that we made after we finished that row. And we're going to pull up a loop, and we are going to pull our working yarn through to this side so we can crochet more comfortably. Just make sure the inside of your strawberry isn't super like twisted up. Make sure it's pretty, your stitches are pretty straight. The reason our ends aren't lining up is because of our seam, so that's totally fine. Insert your hook in a stitch right across from where your working yarn is. See that? Grab our working yarn, come back through this stitch. Keep everything nice and tight and chain 1. Okay, now we need to pull our working yarn through, like the whole skein through the strawberry, or you can just pull out a bunch and hope for the best. I'm not going to pull my skein all the way through because it's too big. I had a smaller leftover, I could just pull it through no problem, but I'm just going to keep crocheting with it like this. This is an unfortunate must. For the sake of aesthetics. We're going to single crochet 30 stitches going through the outer piece and the inner piece. We're going to get a little funky with it. So we're going to go in the back loop of the outer piece. If you remember, we single crocheted in the back bump earlier. That's how we can still see these lovely V stitches. This is normally where we would put our hook. This is the front loop only, which we did with our decreases. This is the back loop only. That's where we're going to insert our hook for the outer layer. Starting in the spot where we just joined, back loop only, and then connecting to the same stitch across from us with the inner, going under both loops. So for the inner, we're going under both loops. For the outer, it's just the back loop. This is going to help it to curve in nicely to make a ledge. So that's where we're going to place our single crochet, and that's 1. We're going to do that all the way around, back loop, and then the whole stitch. That's 2. Back loop, then the whole stitch. That's 3. It can get a little bit funky where the end of the work is. 4. Just do the best you can. Making sure to see that one, this stitch has already been gone through, so I need to make sure I go through the next one. That's going to be another thing that's a little tricky, is make sure you are picking up a new stitch every time and you're not going through a stitch you've already went through, because that will throw off your counts. So keep doing this all the way around for a total of 30 stitches. Okay, coming up on the end, I got 2 stitches left. That's 1. And then the last one. There we go. There we go. There, and join into the top of our first stitch and chain 1. Okay, now for the last row, we're going to single crochet decrease all the way around. So we're going from 30 stitches down to 15 stitches. This is what we've got so far. Looking cool. So to do the magic decrease or whatever is under the front loops only, just like we did previously. So we're just going to go under the front loops for our decreases all the way around. That's 1. Should be 15 when we're done. And then we can cut our yarn, leaving a long tail for closing up the bottom. Okay, looks like I have 2 stitches left. Perfect. Join into the top of our first stitch. And chain 1 for now. Let's take a look at what we got here. You can see it's starting to, very unfortunate color choice. I'm very sorry. I made I made so many. I even made like a coral color one, so I didn't even have coral to use. I've been using all of the colors that I had. This is all that's left. The way that I finish it out is there's a little bit of a hole left. This is not an issue to me. I think it's fine. It goes on the bottom, no problem. I like the way it makes it nice and flat. If you try to close it all the way, you might get like a little tippy. I don't love that. So if you want to close it the rest of the way, you can do another row of decreases. I'm just going to cut my yarn here and then start to close it up as if I were going to close it all the way, but then don't close it all the way. So I'm going to cut my yarn with a long enough tail. This is probably too long, but that's fine. To sew it closed, and then just pull it through that chain 1 that we did and pull it tight. This can just go hidden inside of our work, making sure to go in between the inner and outer wall here. Nice and snug, kind of like amigurumi. between the two wall panels hidden in there. I'm gonna go a little bit more of the shaping while I have this opening down here before I close it all up. Now I'm gonna use my dull tapestry needle this time. You can use the pointy one if that's all that you had. And to close it up, we're doing the magic close. I don't know where these names come from. We're just lifting up the front loop only, just like with the decreases. And then whip your needle around, front loop, whip it, front loop, whip it, front loop, whip it, front loop, see? Pull through gently, nothing too chaotic, and then keep whipping around front loops until you've gone through all 15 stitches. Got 2 left, looks like. Front loop. Okay, now this is the magic part. Magic close. You just kind of pull it and let it kind of close in on itself. So you have a little hole, and then I'm going to go back under those stitches. I don't close it all the way because that's going to make it puckery. I just close it enough to where it's taut. I'm going to go back under those front loop stitches that we picked up with my needle here, just to make sure it's extra secure. No chance of that coming undone. And making sure everything is nice and clean and taut. Now to tie off, gonna poke into the inside all the way in, not between the walls, just in the inside of the plant holder. Now this part gets a little risky, but I'm gonna flip it inside out a little bit so I can tie this off real good like we did with our seeds, and then put it back out the right way and hope it doesn't mess up my stuffing too bad. Just enough to see what I'm doing. I'm gonna make my little knot, just like I did with the seed yarn. Then you can sew in your tail just a little bit. I'm just gonna go to where I can get to these walls, the inner and outer walls. Pop it back. Yeah, pop it back out. Then I can hide it in between the two walls like we did that other pink tail. Okay, ta-da! A little strawberry planter. But Ashley, what was the pool noodle for? I'm so glad you asked. I used the pool noodle to help me shape it. So I just kind of shove it in. I'm holding it against my body right now, so it's pointing towards the bottom of it. And then I can kind of go like this to shape it into the strawberry shape, but then also for my stuffing to make sure it's nice and even all the way around. Kind of like making a clay pot. My pool noodles have been cut. This end has not been cut, but it has been hot glued, so it's a little weird. Okay, yeah, nice and straight at the bottom. Very shapely, very nice. Let's put a plant in it. I put a plant in it. So these are designed specifically to hold these little small terracotta plants. It's about 2 inches the bottom, so you just kind of plop it in there. And it gets all snug down in there, making sure it gets to the very bottom. And then you can put in a fake plant, like so, or a crocheted plant, if you've got any of those laying around. Very cute. You don't have to use the terracotta pot. You could just stick your fake plant down in there. Boop. Very cute. Or even this guy, because it's a square. You can still pop it in there, no problem. Boop, boop. You can hold tons of different plants this size. Around the same basic size. This one I made with an F crochet hook, so it turns out a little bit smaller. The stuffing changes the overall shape also. This one's a little bit more circular at the bottom, and this one's a little bit more tapered. That's just the stuffing. The more you do it, the easier it will be for you to manipulate it to be the shape that you want. You absolutely could get away with using a smaller hook depending on your yarn. I made one with my G hook, and it turned out even smaller than my F hook. This was the G hook. It's probably had something to do with the yarn. It turned out smaller. I don't know. But all of these will work just fine. If you have looser tension, I would suggest going down to a different hook because the smaller hooks definitely give you a more tight, uniform looking stitch. I think this one is one of my favorites, but I'm biased because pink is also my favorite. So I really like the way this one turned out. And then this one was my first official finished red one that I made with an H hook. So you've got lots of options with this pattern. I am going to try to write up like maybe 3 different crochet plant patterns, so stay tuned for that. I also made one with blanket yarn because I had to try it. If you needed to make a bigger strawberry pot holder, the blanket yarn is your way to go. So this size, well, here it is for comparison. It's a little bit bigger. Here was one I made with puff paint for anybody who wanted to see that. Last tip before we go, I did find this out on accident. This is the bottom of a Dr. Pepper bottle, but these fit down in the plant baskets quite nicely if you needed to give them like a base. It's got a little bit more structure down there now. For shaping purposes, just another option. I hope you guys like this pattern. Thanks for hanging out with me. Sorry, this is the first full video tutorial of 2025. If you make any crocheted strawberry plant holders, I would love to see them. You can tag me at A Crafty Concept on nearly all social media platforms, and I would love to look at them and tell you what a wonderful job you did. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel so you can know when I release new things like crochet fake plants. This one doesn't even have a pot, but nobody's gonna know. Makes a cute little photo prop if you don't mess with it. You could also put floral styrofoam down in there. Then you could just add flower stems of your choice and make your own little custom flower arrangement inside of your strawberry plant holder. Okay, that's all I've got, friends. Have a good day.